Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are on the last verse of chapter 6, verse 47 of Bhagavad Gita. And last week I did verse 46. There Krishna Bhagwan was talking about, different paths and how from different paths the meditator meditation is the best path. The reason he was saying that, because it has to culminate into that was the main thing. So it's not like those paths are any less, but they are the initial paths, like karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and all that. And he actually talked about 2-3 different kinds of things. He said ascetics, meaning the people who do tapas. So he was just, we discussed that how if you do tapas for the wrong reasons, or start doing so much tapas, just focus on the tapas itself, or maybe to get some siddhis and all, he said that's not the best kind. And then he talked about knowledge, that if you just keep reading bookish knowledge, or just to give a lecture, or just to gain knowledge for the sake of knowledge, then it's going to be useless. But if the knowledge has to culminate into, this experience at the end, that's what he was trying to say. So we have to take in the right context what he was trying to say. And then he also said that the meditator is better than a man of action, because what karma yoga is a very, very important thing, but it just purifies the mind. By karmas, we can never get that final experience. So it just purifies the mind to the extent that we start asking question, who am I? And then that will lead you to. So we did the whole thing. So that was basically all the different paths. So now he's going to talk about in this verse 47, that among the meditation methods, which one is the best one, highest one. So again, we have to look at it from a correct context, that initially certain kind of practices will be good, but that should not be the final goal. The final goal is we do those certain practices.
The piece is not very good. They took a picture.
That the final goal should be that merging with that Brahman. So we'll see when we do this verse, that what we're going to do. Okay, so here's verse 47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. So the Sanskrit is yoginam, of the different yogis, api even, sarvesham, of all, madgaten, merged in me, antaratmana, with inner self, Shraddhavan, endued with faith, bhajate, worships, yaha is who, Mam is me, Saha is he, me by me, Yukta Tama, most devout, Mataha is deemed, meaning मेरा मत ये है. कृष्ण भगवान अपना opinion दे रहे हैं यहाँ पे. That's what it means. Okay, so let's see what the details of these things are. So he's talking about that, hey, there are different kind of meditators, and then we know there are hundreds of varieties, especially in today's world. Meditation is just a common word, and people do so many different methods. So he's saying that, but the one who is meditating upon the self, and what is self is antaratma, it's called. So he kind of has merged or entered their own self, which is not different from Bhagwan himself, right? So the supreme self and your own self is in essence the same, And that merging is saying that merging with that pure Atma, not anything else. Okay, so the initial practice can be whatever, but it has to culminate in this. So the way Nikhilanandji was explaining was that when he had given the example of a circle, that our goal is to go in the center of the circle. So just don't hang around at the circumference. Because a lot of times the meditator, that's what they end up doing, they get so attached to their own method, and we had discussed that in some other, like, I'm not trying to put anybody down or anything, so don't take it that way, but certain type of meditation, they only will focus on the breath. And then they never talk about God or the self and all that. So then, they will definitely get benefit, no doubt, but they will not reach that ultimate goal. So that's why he was saying that, not name and forms and all that, power, position, mantra, tantra, none of that, but just the pure self should be the goal. And what is that pure self? Is nameless, formless, supreme, which is not different from you. And you will see that how in Kathopanishad, that's exact same thought is coming in that verse, 100%. So it will get reinforced when we do the Kathopanishad. And so the main point to remember over here is the self of the meditator and Ishwar is the same in essence, okay? And so when they become one, that is the final, the one who's trying to become one. That's what Krishna Bhagavan said. That's the best kind of meditator. If you're trying for something, you will get it in the end. So, and then the other thing that he says is the one who has placed his antakaran or mind in me. Because mind, we have discussed that in the end, when the mind becomes transparent, when there are no vikar in it, it's a perfect reflection of the God. So it's like you become God only. That's what it means. And then the other word he used is that Shraddhavan, with supreme faith who worship me, the inner self of all. So we will see that just because we have learned it, we have to merge with the self, we still don't know how to do it yet because we have not finished the other 6 chapters in detail. The next 6 chapters are going to tell you that, all the techniques and why and how and this and that, everything is going to expand. This particular verse is expansion in the next 6 chapters. So we have to have patience. At least we know the goal, but how to get there, we're going to learn that. So, and the Shraddha and the faith will come slowly as we finish all the other chapters. Because right now, we may say, yes, I have Shraddha, but it has not become deeper and deeper. It has to become deeper and deeper. So that's what is going to happen with the next 6 chapters. Or till the end also. So basically what he's trying to say over here is the one having attained and established in that self. So that's another main thing, that right now we have some glimpse of it, but we are not totally established in it yet. And then he talked about that established person in chapter 2 when Arjun had asked him that, hey, how does this one, what are the indicators of a person who is established in this knowledge? So that kind of establishment he's talking about, because once somebody gets established in that, then he's going to see the whole world as himself. That's the main idea, because right now we still have bhed bhav and we get into this, likes, dislikes, and, all kind of differences that we see. That particular person at the highest level does not see any difference. Vyavaharic level, he will, and he will try to fix here and all. But the highest level, he's so established in it, we have no doubt about it. That's what he's talking about. So, when the whole world looks like, hey, this is me only. So he's saying that such a yogi, consider him the best. And the word he used was yukta tama. And Nikhilanandji was saying superlative. Nothing, like we have the word best, or जब किसी को कोई बहुत सारा strong करना होता है ना, तो नया word coin कर लेते, bestest or something. Nothing beyond that. So that's what he's talking about, the bestest. What Nikhilanandji was bringing the point that the one who looks at the whole world as himself, he loves and serves the world. So इसीलिए ये जो ब्रह्मचारी बन जाते हैं ना, बहुत काइंड ऑफ वेरी अर्ली एज में ब्रह्मचारी बन जाते हैं कई लोग, बिकॉज दे हैव सच a strong desire to serve the world. Where is that coming from? Because they are already kind of very close to that merging, you know. So for them, you know, कोई भी दुखियारी लोग दिखते हैं उनको, तो they just want to help them. They don't even think about themselves. So sometimes we have a hard time understanding, but this is where when you, because for us, you know, we always see negativity in the world. These people don't look at the world that way. They just look at, you know, karmic thing going on and all that. And they have to just help as though they're doing God's job, you know, trying to help. So that's what he was trying to get at, you know, Nikhilanandji, that when you get to that state, you know, it doesn't mean that you have to become a sannyasi and leave your home and all that. You can be a grahastha and still have that feeling, you know. That's another important thing. So he's saying that such a yogi is the best. And so then Nikhilanandji tried to explain that little process, and I think he brought out some good points, and I'll share it with you, all of you, that see, he said that when we start meditating after understanding the basics, you know, what Bhagwan is and all, so then I come to know who I am, right? So then, but when I come to know who I am, then I also come to know that I'm not just confined to my body. You know, it's the vision expands. Saying that we come to know that I in that self of all being, you know, is also the same. And when we do, you know, chapter 13, Krishna Bhagwan is going to clearly say that I is one everywhere, you know. And so that's what is called Ishwar. So, and then when I meditate, I come to know that I myself, as though I am Ishwar, I mean, not as though, I am Ishwar at that essence level. Because sometimes people get so afraid to say that, how can I be God? But then we talked about it, that it's like H2O, you know, a drop of water in the ocean is H2O, so is the entire ocean is H2O, something like that. Okay, think of it like that. Then he's saying, I myself is the essential nature of that God only. So I don't need to run around anywhere else. It is within me. So then he gave the example of wave and ocean. You know, it's like a metaphor, he said. He's saying that suppose there is a wave rising and suddenly gets interested in spirituality. Because, you know, this is how this whole thing within us we have to do. And he's saying that, the wave wants to know that who am I? What is the nature, you know, my nature? So then the wave is told by a guru that, hey, you follow the path of yoga, okay, karma yoga. And then कर्म योगा किया, उसका थोड़ा प्योरीफाई हुआ माइंड, देन उपासना किया उसने, थोड़ा और प्योरीफाई हुआ, and then, you know, knowledge took place, you know, and then the wave understood that, you know, hey, essentially I'm water, okay, and then it meditated on that, and then it realized that yes, you are water, completely convinced of it, no doubt about it. And then the very moment it got convinced that I am water, it also came to know, hey, the entire ocean is water. Every wave is water. So then there won't be any vikaras, you know, no jealousy, no this, no nothing, because everybody is water only. So that's what it is. So he was explaining how it became, started with the individual journey, and then came to know about the entire thing in the end. So he's saying that just like when we talk about one wave, then it's called a wave. And when we talk about all the waves, then it becomes the ocean, right? The same exact way, when we talk about totality, then it is that Brahman or reality or Ishwar, whatever you want to call, an individual is a Jiva or a Atma. So that's how it fits over here. So through this kind of meditation, you come to know that I am a pure Atma. And then I am the self in all beings. So this is, you know, final conclusion. And then that's when you get the comprehensive understanding. Because until then, it's like partial. Okay. So then, so far, what happened to chapter 6 over here is, you know, the knowledge was focused on from individual standpoint. And now, this verse hints at what is going to come in the next 6 chapters until 12. So revealing the reality from the totality point of view. So that's the main thing. So that's what is going to be revealed, the nature of Ishwar, and how nature of Ishwar and nature of Jiva is the same. It's going to expand on that a lot more. And then, so basically through the chapter 6, we came to know who I am. And then in the next 6 chapter, we'll learn who God is, like we have discussed many times. So it's I'm really excited to go in that part, because it's really very, very interesting. Everything, all the analogies and everything, that is beautiful. And so obviously we will, as we go with the journey, we will realize that Ishwar and us are the same. And then also Bhagwan is going to explain in the various verses in next 6 chapters that how this world, concept of this world, how it came about, how it manifested, appeared, different components of it and all that. And then also he will also say that he himself, Bhagwan himself, is a self in all being. And that is the most important thing, He's so the seed, or the bead or seed, you call it, is in this particular verse that I just chanted, verse 47 for the next 6 chapters. So the conclusion is among the yogis, the one who has become one with myself, who worships me, seeing me in all, such a yogi is the best. And then one very important point that Nikhilanandji brought that I wanted to bring to all of you. He said that, Bhagavad Gita, entire Bhagavad Gita is like a beautiful flower. So how you appreciate your flower, you can, pluck one kind of petal and look at it and say, okay, this is it's made of the flower. But you have to know the whole flower also. Just by plucking 1 or 2 things here and there, you're not going to get it. Because once we go through the whole Gita, you will realize the importance of learning every verse and each chapter, what it stands for, and the totality of it, the vision of Bhagavad Gita. Because you can't just take one. Some people will just take one verse, and then if you don't understand the rest of it, you can misunderstand it very easily. Oh, Krishna Bhagwan to aisa bolte hain, but Krishna Bhagwan ne aur bhi kuch bola which is connected with it. See what I'm trying to say? So I thought he brought that very important point. And in that analogy of flower, he was saying that you not only need to know the petal, you need to know the entire flower, and then the flower has to be on the plant. And the flower is connected, that plant is connected with everything around it, with the water and the sun and everything. So just keep that in mind, that this Bhagavad Gita is like a flower in the knowledge of this Upanishad, and you have to understand it from totality perspective. And then you will get the full picture. Otherwise, you're going to get just a partial picture. And this is a perfect example. Here, Krishna Bhagwan said, oh, merge, yourself with me. But I still don't know how to do it, because I have not understood what the self is. See what I'm saying? So that's why it is so important to know the entire Bhagavad Gita, and then we will get it. So I thought that he brought a very important point. Any question or comment? Anybody wants to add anything?
Just one question here. When he's saying, worship me, he means worshipping self, which is the same as he.
Yes, with the capital S, yes. Because sometimes that also people misunderstand. Oh, Krishna Bhagwan said, worship me. Is he such a egotistic person, number one? And number two, then they will get stuck at the Murti of Krishna Bhagwan. And that's nice. Okay, nobody's saying. But in the end, you have to go beyond it. And that the famous story of Mirabai, that she was so attached to the form, and in the end, she was like still not dukhi at the end. That, hey, I feel the separation. I feel the pangs of separation. And then her guru comes in. I don't remember the name of her guru, but he was the one who gave her the final knowledge. And they say that finally, like it's a metaphor or reality, I don't know. They said that when she left her body, she merged with Krishna Bhagwan physically, they say. Because, that was like a symbolic thing but she felt this separation, So that's why he was talking about that. So you are correct. Self, he's talking about that from the Brahman and Atma perspective. Yeah.
So there is an incident in Bhagavatam when somebody saw Krishna Bhagavan praying, and they asked him, "Who are you praying for?" And he said, "I'm praying for self."
Right. Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, and you see Krishna Bhagavan sitting in the meditative position. Yeah, we are in our class over there in Chinmaya Mission, we have a beautiful picture of Krishna Bhagavan meditating. So he's like, because he's in the body, right? And then we also discussed that when he talked about, the Bhagavad Gita came out of his mouth, he was completely merged at that time with that Brahman. That's why it's such a masterpiece. And later on, when Arjun asked him, "Hey, can you repeat this Gita?" he said, "Sorry, I cannot." Because he the body consciousness was there. But obviously, he still is the highest, persona of God. There's no doubt, That's why they say 16 kalas se yukta vagara. Magar even to give this Bhagavad Gita, he had to have the right circumstances completely, So that's what it is, that it is he himself.
So last week, my kids were here, and we were doing Diwali Puja, and my 6-year-old granddaughter, she asked, "Who's God? Have you seen him?"
Yeah, they will ask that question. It's a very good
How
question.
do you answer?
I think that the way I would answer is that, say, who is God? That God, firstly, we have to tell him God is within you.
Yeah, I know.
We are all made of material, made of. But because we cannot see God with our eyes yet, we have to understand it. It's going to take some time. And one of the way you reach there is by doing the puja of Lord Krishna and all that, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So we can also say God is in the sun, in the wind, and the flowers.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. You can just say that God is everything. So, but we have to also explain to them that, because obviously we don't want to start giving the whole Vedanta to them. So is
then the other question she asked was, "What is prasad?"
So that is a very good point too. Is that prasad is something very sweet, and when you eat sweet, you feel happy, and when you think of God, you feel happy. So that's why prasad is two different things. One is, yes, this food is prasad, but also the happiness is prasad.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the kind of things you can answer. Those are very good questions from kids. And also when the younger kids ask who God is, so our teacher, because over there Darshana Ben, she was really like master of how to talk to kids about different things. Right. So it's saying one thing you can explain to them, that God gives us everything, and they will understand that. They say, "Hey, see, when we are born, we are born with nothing, but see, when you came, your mom is there, dad is there, all the things, all your toys are there. Who gave it? God gave it. It looks like mom and dad, but how did they get it? Ultimately, so it's little bit you can talk to them about that God gives us everything. And when people give you things, you say thank you. So if God is giving everything, we have to tell thank you to God every day. That's how you can steer them to think about God. Simple ways, the language that they'll understand, So I'm very thrilled when little kids ask God's questions. And we should, sometimes we get totally stunned and we don't know how to answer.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's better not to answer them wrong, but maybe think over it. So yeah, I'll tell you, if you can't suddenly know, tell them next day,
Yeah.
Think about it, how you want to answer at their level. Because, like in our class, there are 16-year-old kids. So now I can talk to them about, little bit of Vedanta, and they're excited about it because the concepts and all, they so far, up to 7th, 8th grade and all that. 9th grade, they do Indian culture over there, Hindu culture, they call it. But up to there, it was more like they try to create love for God. Like nice stories of Krishna and how beautiful he is, and your gopis and this and all that is great. And their daily prayers and all that, and that kind of thing. And then when they become 15, 16, then you start teaching them Vedanta, and they get it. still at their level, not suddenly hi-fi, You start talking about renunciation or, you have to control all your senses and all that, and they get all scared, It's a management of senses. So you have to use the right language, and then they get it. Yeah. Any other? Okay, shall we read then?
Sure.
Any volunteers to read? Anilji, you can read.
And among all yogis, he who, full of faith, with his inner self merged in me, worships me, he is according to me the most devout. Whereas the previous stanza gives us a relative estimate of the different paths in spirituality and finally declares that meditation is the best among the lot, the stanza now under review explains who exactly is the best among all the meditators. Meditation is, in the beginning at least, a deliberate act by which the seeker strives to keep his thoughts channelized into one predetermined divine line of thinking, and this is maintained by disallowing the mind to run into dissimilar thought channels. Meditation, therefore, must of necessity start with an effort on the part of the meditator to fix his mind upon some object of contemplation or the other. The art of meditation can be classified under different types according to the nature of the object of contemplation chosen and according to the nature of the persuasions adopted in curtailing the mind from its mad roamings. Should I continue?
Yeah, I think the next paragraph is kind of excellent. So we are all understood that what he's trying to say that the initially what we are trying to do is take our mind from the world and put it on one thought, right? So that is the first initial thing. Or while doing that, you can do so many different things, and he will just going to tell you in the next paragraph what different people do.
And then that is all in preparation of mind control.
Right, exactly. So sometimes, in the beginning, we can, people get attracted to different things. किसी को ओम सिंबल पे मेडिटेशन ऐसा, कोई बोलता है मेरे को भगवान का पिक्चर समझ में नहीं आता है, आई डोंट नो व्हाट आई शुड बी थिंकिंग, सो चलो कोई और सिंबल ले लो. सम पीपल इवन डू इट ऑन लाइट और सम फ्लेम, और बिकॉज दे आर ट्राइंग टू train their mind. But in the end, he's just telling you that you have to graduate from there and learn what the self is and meditate on the self. That's what he's saying, yeah.
Thus, we have in the tradition of our practices, meditations prescribed upon a symbol, on the God principle with a form, on the teacher, on the Kundalini, or any of the great elements, or on a chosen scriptural text. Accordingly, the practitioners may be considered as followers of different kinds of meditation. The singer of the Geeta is trying to indicate herein who exactly is to be considered as the best and the most successful meditator among the types mentioned above.
So it's like it's as clear as anything, a clean mirror, what he's saying over here, right? Which is the best kind of thing.
In this concluding stanza of the chapter, the Lord insists that all of the meditators, he who, with his inner self, mind and intellect merged in the self, and with Shraddha devotes himself to the self, is the most firm and steadfast meditator. The pregnant suggestions contained in this stanza can fill volumes, inasmuch as it is a summary of the entire Yoga Shastra. Naturally, therefore, Lord Krishna dedicates the entire length of the next chapter as an annotation to this mantra-like stanza.
So we saw that this particular verse is going to be expanded in the next 6 chapters, and he's talking about that. Hey, the entire Yoga Shastra. So here it's called Brahma Vidya. Yeah, I am Yoga Shastra. Brahma Vidya means what is the goal, and Yoga Shastra means how do I get there. So this is a Yoga Shastra that, hey, the whole purpose is that we need to take our mind and intellect and merge it with the self, with the faith and Shraddha. So, in that process, you can take different paths, but it has to culminate in that. Otherwise, we have not reached the goal. The peak of the mountain we have not reached. We are somewhere still before hanging around in the middle of the mountain somewhere.
For the purpose of our understanding of this chapter, it is sufficient for the time being if we gather from this stanza that the essence of meditation is not so much in our attempt at integrating the mind as in the ultimate merging of the inner equipment, antakarna,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and getting it completely sublimated in the final experience of the self. That this can be done only by the one who does proper bhajan upon the self with all Shraddha is the truth declaration made here with a loving insistence by the eternal lover of the gopis.
So, there were some glimpse of this, in the autobiography of Yogi, he mentioned that how when he got that final experience, he felt the oneness of everything. And I've heard other people also who have had that experience, when they talk in their biographies or whatever lectures and all that they feel like they are part of everything, including the inert things. And the people who have had the near-death experience, that kind of exactly, a lot of them had that experience of oneness. They said it felt like they could talk to the flower. Flower and them were one. Whatever experience they were having in that heaven, bolo, ki koi some other realm, that they just realize, oh my God, everything is just one. And when we are born on this earth, we experience this separateness. And we experience all the pain and this and that because we feel separate. But over there, when you suddenly become one, you like, it just bliss and happiness. It's hard for us to really understand. But when I hear those people, it's complete validation of what Lord Krishna is saying over here. So that's what. And then here, the bhajan, the true Vedantic meaning of bhajan he's going to tell now, next verse.
Actually, when you are watching mountains and nature around you, and if you try to merge with it, then the experience is totally different.
Yeah, and there, you all of a sudden feel so happy. Nobody's given you $1 million there, but why do people want to go and look at the nature? Because it makes you so happy. All of a sudden, all the stress is gone, right? Because there is no ego involved over there. You're not trying to possess the mountain, right? You're just looking and appreciating, So many different things happen when you're looking at nature with a very open mind.
The term bhajan has come together to itself such a lot of advantageous superstitions that the word, as it is understood today, means elaborate rituals, which almost always mean nothing to the priest, nor to the devotees, who are mere onlookers of the priestly performances. Sometimes it means a lot of loud singing with noisy accompaniments and an entire crowd roaring their way towards an emotional ecstasy, often ending in hysteria and exhaustion. Very rarely do they gain even a vague experience of the spiritual thrill.
So we have experienced all that hangama, right? So, I mean, at least, yeah, America, when the priest, they say some mantra, they try to explain the meaning. But we all grew up with Pandit ji just saying some mumbling, jumbling something, and we don't know anything. पहले तो वो उच्चारण भी गलत करते हैं आधा टाइम पे तो वहाँ पे. नॉर्थ इंडिया में तो बहुत गलत करते हैं लोग. Anyway, go ahead.
जहाँ भजन हो रहे होते हैं, there are some people who get so emotional that they start dancing or crying or
Yeah, true. And I mean, no offense. If they are getting some happiness with that, that's great. But if they think that is what bhajan is only, that's where the problem is.
like.
They can, that is just dance and drama, with God in mind, but that's not the final bhajan that he's talking about. That merging is that final thing.
In the textbooks of Vedanta, bhajan is the attempt of the ego to pour itself out in an act of devoted dedication towards the principle of reality, whereby it successfully invokes the experience that lies beyond the noisy shores of the mind and intellect equipment. One who does this invocation, bhajan, of the self, and naturally gets himself merged in that awakening, is declared here by the teacher of the Geeta as belonging to the highest type of meditators.
So then he explained it completely. It's like giving up your ego, or with different ways you can look at it, what he's trying to say, and ultimately you have to feel that oneness with Bhagwan. When you feel oneness with Bhagwan, you feel oneness with the whole world. And that's why, like, there is a saying that, seva, the word seva is there, like lot of people do Mother Teresa, like, how she used to go and जो एकदम जिसकी हालत सबसे ज़्यादा खराब है, जो कोई पास भी नहीं जाना चाहता उसके. So where did she get that strength? They said that seva is nothing but it's like love in action. Love for God in action. That's what it is. That's how they described it. I thought that was such a great definition, because somebody can be saying, oh, I love God and this and that, but when God's work is around, we just run away from there, So that's what. It's something to think about,
But how much is that also total oneness with everything?
Yeah, it's a very big part of it. Now, I don't know whether, some people believe that Mother Teresa, did not feel that final experience. I think one time Joe was discussing that she still felt the separateness, but obviously she was very close to it. Or maybe, we don't know. We can't judge anybody like that. We don't know ourselves. But anybody who when we meet different people in the world, there are some people who are very seva-oriented people. उनसे बैठा ही नहीं जाता, कोई भी काम फटाफट उठ के करेंगे. Even if you go to the mandir, there'll be some who will run to go serve everybody and all that. Nobody's pushing them. It is coming from inside, and the more you have that kind of bhavna, I think you feel closer to the God. That's how I look at it. I don't know how everybody else feels. So we can, if we don't have it, we can deliberately try to do it now that we know. But as we, there is one Upanishad where it says that one who kind of merges like that with God, he doesn't have any kind of hatred for anybody or anything. अगर terrorist भी कोई आ जाएगा ना, तो उसको वो hate नहीं करेगा. And that's how we talked about it, that we have this Sri Ravi Shankar. He goes to those camps and he talks to them, and he says the moment you talk to them, you kind of bring their mind a little quieter, they will all start crying, and because they're just misguided people. So he looks at them more like spoiled children of God, that he has to show. Whereas अगर हम लोग के सामने कोई आ जाएगा तो बोलेगा मारो काटो इसको, इसको तो capital punishment मिलना चाहिए and things like that, right? I mean, that's the difference, I think.
It is quite evident to every student of Vedanta that such a meditator comes to transcend all his identifications with the false matter envelopments and becomes, through the experience of his real nature, the very self. Yet, the mouthpiece of Renaissance Hinduism, Lord Krishna, in his modesty and reverence for the tradition in our culture, attributes this statement in the stanza as his own personal opinion.
So he said, no, mataha means he's just saying that he thinks, he's kind of, because Arjuna is surrendered to him and he's giving him advice. So he's saying, mere mat mein ye hai, but basically it is what all the Vedanta, the sar of the Vedanta is. And here he says that how, main thing that such a meditator comes to transcend all his identification is a false matter envelopment. So that's what the main thing is, that, transcending and not like when we say, I think I'm the body, I think I'm the mind. So this person could convince that I'm not the body, I'm the mind, not the mind, I am that Atma. That's what it is.
And that is exactly what is merging with the surface.
Yes, that's exactly what the merging. You're right. And then that whole verse that we do at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. People misunderstand even that verse so much. They think Krishna Bhagavan is saying, oh, सारे धर्मों को त्याग के मेरे पास आ जाओ, Muslim धर्म और ये धर्म. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about dharma of the body, mind and intellect. Drop that. That's what it means, really. That, drop all that identification and surrender to that Atma, which is within you. I am within you. So that's what that verse is.
The problem is human nature to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
So they don't want to take the real route. They want to take shortcuts.
Yeah, and sometimes, people will quote it at the wrong place also. They say, oh, the Muslims are saying that, everybody should become a Muslim. No, here, look at this verse. Krishna Bhagavan is saying everybody should bow down to Krishna Bhagavan. But that's not what he was saying.
No.
I've heard people say that. So verse 66 of chapter 18, go read it, what Krishna Bhagavan is saying. Sab dharmo ko त्याग के मेरे पास आ जाओ. So it's sad that when they don't study the whole Bhagavad Gita and then they misunderstand. That's exactly what that Nikhilanandji was saying. They pluck one flower and then they say, hey, this is Bhagavad Gita. Have they studied everything? Have they understood what it means? So, true. Lord Krishna is saying it himself. Yeah. Any other question, comment?
I did have a question. I mean, he's saying, come to me. Is it because the rest of the things follow the Upanishads, rest of the book? When he says to me, that is not of the Upanishad, but that is because he's saying from himself. Though he knows, and everybody, Arjuna knows, and that it's not, me, it really means different. But because he's saying me,
because he was merged with that highest, when that's why we need Mahatmas to tell us when he says me what it means, because if people can misunderstand it, so high level misunderstanding. So what Anilji brought that thing, whenever he says me in Bhagavad Gita, that's the first thing they teach you when you go, hey, don't think that Krishna Bhagavan is saying me, the body.
Right. It mentions that.
Yeah. Me means self.
He has to remind, whenever he says me, he has to sort of remind that who that me is.
Yeah.
Because everything else is because of the Upanishad. It is taken.
Yeah. Yes, here it's a personal thing because he's talking to Arjuna and he already gave his visiting card in chapter 4 over here. Then he started saying me after that. Because then, he said that, look, I know everything. I'm omniscient. This knowledge was given by me to the sun and, Vivaswan and this, that is. And then with the passage of time, the knowledge gets contaminated. And we know, I was just talking to our son the other day and I said, all these religion, they were not started by those people that we claim it started. Just like Jesus. Jesus did not start Christianity. After whatever few hundred years ago, they put all this together. Oh, people who follow this are called Christians. Jesus has never said that, hey, this set of people who believe in me, will call them Christians. Or Buddhism. Think about it. Buddha never started Buddhism. These were people who were had that experience. They were merged with the highest and they were just, living a life that became example for everybody. And they're healing people and doing all that. And they said certain things that become like Mahavakyas, obviously. But this title given about this, Hinduism to khair word hi nahi hai. This was coined by the West. We use it very frequently now, but it's called Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means, forever. Forever means these are laws of nature that apply all the time. No bars. Million years ago in another planet, wherever, it's all the same. That's what it means, Sanatan. Never changing. So I think these are the things we have to really ponder upon. So here, what you said, he says me, but don't ever think that he's talking about Krishna Bhagwan, the body.
Right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, if you just, as you mentioned, if you just take one verse or two verses, it could totally change.
Oh, it will be a disaster if you ask me. It's like, somebody taking just, some one principle of finance and think that they can know the whole finance, or take the one engineering concept, without knowing everything else, or chemistry,
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. And that's why the next 6 chapters are so important, because he's going to tell you what Prakriti is, what Purush is, what are the components of it, where it's coming from, what is the relationship, how do you fit in, everything. So the more and more we ponder upon it, then we say, oh my God, there's no difference between the world and me. And Ayurveda to वैसे ही बोलता है कि you are a miniature kind of universe.
It is. If
Yeah.
you, in the long run, if you look at it, everything.
Everything is within you.
One and many outside and the one in you is the same.
Exactly. All the 5 elements are within us. And when they talk about big numbers, we say, our mind cannot comprehend, right? When we think of billion, trillion, ये वो, right? हम लोग एकदम पागल जैसे हो जाते हैं. लेकिन हमारे body में भी वो million, trillion cells हैं.
Yes.
My husband is sitting here, I mean, even bacteria are in, God knows, the bacteria and viruses are in millions, God knows, So million, trillion तो हमारे body में भी है सब कुछ,
Isn't it how the combination become a solid of the 5 elements and how we
Yes.
became
And even the connections, like they were talking about the neurons and all that, unka jo connection and all the fast thing that happens in our brain, it's like what happens in the universe. And I don't know, because I watch all these universe shows a lot, जब वो picture दिखाते हैं ना भी universe का और brain का picture एक ही जैसा है. It is just mind-boggling. I say, my God, that is the same. And the black hole, it looks like the iris of the eye of our humans. बोलते ना किसी आंखों में झांक के उसकी आत्मा को हम देख सकते हैं. It's just unbelievable that the bigger it gets, and when you look at the picture, it looks like, oh, it's like just my body only. And that's why the gods, the Virat Roop is nothing but the entire cosmos, the body of God, they call it, right? Virat Roop. So that is just, just like we are the miniature Virat.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
I looked at it. You're talking about the one and the same, that if other person is in pain, you feel the pain. That's the oneness that disconnected with you. That means you feel. And that's what the oneness is.
Yeah, that's where the oneness is. So for us, we experience that within our family. We know that if you're one child or your husband or your spouse, anybody is in distress, you become in distress, right? Because we feel the oneness. And then extended family also. If somebody is hurting, we say, oh my God, you feel the pain, you can't sleep at night because you want that to fix it. These Mahatmas, they feel oneness with the entire world.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So, but they also have the right tools how to fix, because if you get totally distressed, you can't help somebody, right? I'm saying, so you got to have that balance. Establish in the highest, knowing that, hey, this is just a drama, but within that drama, I got to make them, help them within that drama, and the whole idea for them is to pull them up in spirituality. They are not trying to have them gain some great thing in the world or something. They want them to, become happier people. Because as we do the Kathopanishad, the purpose of all this is that, you get over your grief.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
That's the main thing. And who does not want that? You ask a baby, You ask a worm or you ask a dying man. Everybody wants to be happy.
Yeah. Except at the moment we relate with the body mind.
Yes, we
And
think that,
that
by worldly
it's
things are giving
nothing.
us. And it was, I think, our son Rishi, he was showing me some documentary that, in Cuba, now I don't know what it is, but he was showing one fellow from America went there, and some of them didn't have anything. They didn't have running water there. They didn't have the basic necessity they didn't have. But they all were smiling, laughing. And he said, it was such an eye-opener that in America, we got everything. And the mental health is going crazy over here. And those guys, in India, they say that if you go to those slums in Mumbai, they have their own world. They dance, they enjoy Diwali, everything they do just like anybody else.
Right.
So we have some completely wrong notion that if I become comfortable, if I have all the luxury, I'll be happy. If that's what somebody was saying, that mostly the materialists are the one who commit suicide. You never heard a spiritual person who is interested in Bhagavad Gita and reading it every day. He's not going to do this. But if you're away from it and you keep thinking of materialism all the time, then high chance that you will get depressed and you go to some other
But
problem.
Umaji, if they know, maybe they would worry about it. They don't know certain things. If you're talking about slums or the villages, they're happy with what they know and with what they have.
I think the
And
point
they
I was trying to make is happiness has nothing to do with materialism. That's whatever these guys are saying, that's what I'm trying to say. That it is more something, a state of mind. Because somebody could have $50 million and still want another 100 and think that I have less. And somebody could have $200 and say, I got plenty. I can buy tomorrow my food and I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's
true.
what I mean.
Very true.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Umaji, I have a question,
Yeah.
I still thinking how to meditate on self.
That's what next 6th chapter, that's exactly what I'm saying. That right now we have understood that that's what I need to do. Now from chapter 7 onward, he's going to tell you what the self is. Just to give you an example, he's going to tell you that, that the self, it's like two different aspects of self, the higher self and the lower self. The lower self is a prakriti, is made of mind, intellect, body, and the 5 elements. But the lower one is sustained by the higher. Like that, he's going to explain to us a lot of things, So we have to have patience, because right now, true, we don't know how to meditate on self. We have to just have patience and see what he says. Yeah, it's coming.
Oh, thank you. I'm thinking how to meditate on self.
Yeah, and then when we come to chapter 10, Arjun is going to say, he's still a little bit confused. He said, but I have to go to work tomorrow morning. How do I see you around me? So then Bhagwan says, I'll tell you how to see me. He said, when you see the sunset, think it is me. When you see the mountain, like Anilji was saying, mountain, where did the mountain come from? I mean, you see the sunrise in San Diego, beautiful. You go to the east, and that is God's glory. God's light is coming through that. Or the ocean, or the air, or whatever you say. And then he's going to say, in sab mein, just say among all the animals, I'm the lion. So अगर तुमको वैसे गॉड नहीं दिखाई देता है तो फिर लायन में देखो जो भी अच्छी चीज है कोई भी चीज हमको अच्छी लगती है where is coming from? It's God only. That's what he was trying to. And in the end he says, Arey, you are telling me where I am, tell me where I'm not.
Yeah.
But still he was without a compassion, he was telling him how to see God in everybody. And we know we can see God in babies so easily. Because all of us are grandparents now, I know, and as they get a little older, फिर वो दुनिया उनको छूने लगती है, then they start becoming mean and competitive. But a small child is so innocent, so trusting, so loving. It's just, they're just one little smile is like God's smile only,
Yeah.
So that's how it is,
The biggest thing about babies is they forget and forgive in a second.
In a second.
In a second.
And even now sometimes like my daughter-in-law will get really kind of tired and all that, and he doesn't want to get away from her. He will start crying, but I can change his mood in half a second. I'll take him out, show him something, and he starts smiling and laughing. So true. They don't hold anything in like we do.
Like we do.
Yeah, they'll forgive you in 1 minute. True. So we can do this, the last part of each chapter, because since we finished this. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Dhyana Yogo Nama Shashto Dhyayaha. So here it says Om. Om is a symbol. Now we know what it is from Mandukya, that it symbolizes that Brahman only. Tat Sat Iti. Tat is that, again, that Brahman. Sat, Satya, which is Brahman. Iti, and this is it. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu. So it is telling you, it is coming from the Upanishads, everything that Krishna Bhagavan is saying. It is a Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. We discussed that Brahma Vidya is that final goal. Who God is, Yoga Shastra, how to get there. And this is a dialogue between Krishna Bhagavan and Arjun. And Dhyana Yog, jiska naam hai Dhyana Yog, Shashto Dhyaya. And here is a little, in my book it's there. Anilji, you have it. The last part, you can just read the translation of this, and then there's one paragraph for Swamiji's commentary. Do you have that?
Yes.
So just read that.
Thus, in the Upanishads of the glorious Bhagavad Gita, in the science of the eternal, in the scripture of yoga, in the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjun, the sixth discourse ends entitled The Yoga of Meditation. Nowhere else in the entire extent of the voluminous spiritual literature that we have in Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra and the Gita, Prasatana Trayi, can we find such a wealth of details explaining not only the technique of meditation, but also the possible pitfalls and how to avoid them successfully, as we have them so clearly and vividly explained here. No scripture fails to hint at the path of meditation as the way to reach the highest possibilities in life, and yet nowhere have we, among our reported and compiled heritage of sacred books, such a vivid discussion of the entire path. To a true seeker, indeed, a thorough study of the sixth chapter, is ample direction and guidance to reach the highest through meditation. It is therefore but proper that this chapter is put entirely titled The Yoga of Meditation. Om, Om, Om.
So we already discussed that this has like the most detailed explanation of how to meditate and what is the goal and what are the pitfalls and everything. And here he talked about that in the entire voluminous scripture literature. So Prasthanatraya, that was a word. Prasthanatraya is called the three foundation of Sanatan Dharma. And they are Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita has been given so much importance. So anybody who wants to know about Sanatan Dharma, they study these three things. Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. So he's saying there's जो डिटेल में कृष्ण भगवान ने बताया ना मेडिटेशन, वो कहीं भी नहीं है इन तीनों चीज़ों में जितना इसमें है ये चैप्टर 6 में. That's what he's telling. उसका importance बता रहे हैं. So that's why I was saying that anybody has any question about meditation, we should guide them. Go read chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, Or if we want to tell somebody, then we should tell which is based on this chapter rather than, some other thing, made up thing.
Are we going to start 7th chapter next week? Is that what it is?
Yeah, we will.
Oh, I was wondering can we just do for just next class, if the totality of the 6th chapter, the highlights, or maybe the verses that are the most important, that the more meaningful. Is it possible? I
Yeah,
don't know
we can
how
do that.
this
We
would
can
work.
summarize. Next class, we can summarize chapter 6 and then go to chapter 7. I think that's a great idea.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I want to just get the whole
The
thing
kind
in
of
one
gist.
second.
Yes.
Gist of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And where we started to where we are. And then the 7th will continue the
Yes.
week.
So, what, we'll definitely do that. But just one thing that helps me sometimes, that which a lot of you have this book, right? This one or the other one. That after we finish this whole chapter, just go through the English translation. It only takes about it only takes about 15-20 minutes, but that also gives you a whole kind of thing. I do that a lot, especially when
I
I'm going.
was trying to do that and put in the verses that go, have the meaning, the continuous meaning of maybe the problems of meditation, or maybe the first part, So what are the verses that go with one thing, concentrate on one thing and go on to the other? And that's why I was saying, maybe if you could just highlight, the verses that are most important or the most meaningful, and then the next 3-4 verses follow after that of the
same thing.
idea.
Okay. So I'll do that next week. Okay, and
Is
then
that
we can.
possible?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yes, and then after that we'll go the following week. Then we'll go 7. Fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm gonna close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. And if you have any questions also of chapter 6